So this may not be the question that I'm asked the most, but it's a question that I am asked a heck of a lot. So I'm going to try to share with you what I've come up with, what I found over the years as far as winterizing containers. So first of all, if you're not familiar with my channel, I grow blackberries exclusively in wicking tubs. I used to have blackberries in the ground. I had 700 feet of blackberries in the ground. Gophers played havoc with them, as well as some of them just aged out. Blackberries do have a lifespan. So I decided, when it was obvious that I needed to change tactics, I decided instead of putting them in the ground and feeding the gophers, I was going to put them or try them in containers, because I'd never seen it done before. I don't know that anybody did it before I did, so I'm not going to say I'm the first, but I never saw it done. And so I put blackberries in here. These are Prime Arc Freedoms. I have some other ones on the other side. I'll go show you in just a second. Prime Arc Freedom blackberries. This is growing in, I believe, to the 4th growing season. So they've been in these tubs for about 3 years. But people have asked, what about winter? What do I do to protect these blackberry plants during the winter? And we have, now understand, I'm in zone 8. I'm not going to get the kind of winters that some of y'all get up north. But in 2021, February of 21, we did get cold, at least cold by my standard. We got under -5. I would think most people would consider that cold, maybe not as cold as you get sometimes way up north, but -5 is pretty daggum cold. And I feel like if anything was going to happen to these tubs, it could have and would have happened at -5 instead of -30 or -40, which some of y'all get. So I think it was a pretty good test of how the blackberries do and how the tubs do in cold weather, because it stayed cold for about a week. I mean, it was, I don't ever want to do that again. It was tough for us old Texans. So what happened to those blackberries? Well, I lost a lot of canes. Some of the canes didn't have anything to do with the tubs, I don't think, because I believe the canes would have died whether it was in the ground or not, because they were just exposed to the air. But I lost maybe 50% of the canes. So on these berries here, these are Prime Arc Freedom. So the Prime Arc Freedom berries are kind of susceptible to cold damage. I found that out. I've told you that over and over. People that are researching what berries to buy, what brands, what varieties of berries to buy. So the Prime Arc Freedom were very, well, I didn't lose the plants. I guess what I'm getting at is the root that's down in that tub, I don't think was damaged at all. I think it was just the top froze, and froze hard, and froze enough to kill about 50% of them. It didn't kill them all, just about 50% of them. So the fact that they came back in the spring, I mean, really started coming back hard in the spring, tells me that the cold weather did not damage the roots. So, you know, if people have asked me, in fact, I've had people tell me they wrap theirs up with bubble wrap and things like that. I don't do anything. I don't do anything. Try to make sure they're hydrated. Try to make sure all winter long, if we're not getting rain, that I do come in here and water. I want to make sure the containers, the roots, the soil, everything inside there is hydrated. I don't think wrapping it or babying it or whatever would have helped in any way. Now, having said that, if I ever see it's going to get down to -5 again or 0 again or thereabouts, I will probably come out here and try to cover these so I don't lose those canes. You know, like I say, I lost about 50% of my canes, and they look just like this. I mean, they were really fleshed out. They had vegetation all over them, and I lost about half of that due to the cold. So I don't want to do that again. So I'm not going to protect them against the cold generally, but specifically if it's going to get real cold, and when I say real cold, I'm talking about probably single digits, around 10 or below, then I will probably come in here with plastic, I've got a bunch of moving blankets. I'll come in here with something and cover, tarps, something, just to try to hold some of that heat in, to keep some of the canes alive. I don't think it bothers the roots. I didn't see any evidence that it bothered the roots, simply because they came out so viciously in the springtime. As soon as it got warm enough, boy, the new canes, the prima canes, started coming up like crazy. And they wouldn't have done that had they had a lot of damage, root damage from the cold in a container. So that's one reason I don't think there's a problem. Now they did have a big layer of snow on them. It was about 6 or 8 inches of snow, and the snow is an insulator. The snow was around the bottom, the snow was on top, and that did insulate some. So, you know, take that in consideration too. That's why I say if it's going to get cold, real cold, I don't think I'm going to insulate the tub, but I do believe I will try to insulate the vegetation. So I guess my point is, if you want to baby years, and if you want to insulate the bottom, and if you're in a place that's super, super cold, you might. But I'm not, again, zone 8, but zone 8 with some real cold experience. So what I'm saying is, I don't think you really need to do anything, especially if you're in a real cold climate. That means you probably get a lot of snow too, and that snow is going to insulate. And I would say, so should you insulate? Should you not? All I'm saying is I haven't. I don't see an issue as far as insulating the tub. I do see an issue as far as insulating the blackberries if they are susceptible to cold. Again, Primark Freedom berries, I got a berry on the end I'll show you. But these Primark Freedom berries, they were susceptible to cold. I lost a bunch of those canes. But this one on the end, that is, I believe, a Ouachita. It's different. And it didn't have any damage, no damage at all. And that tells me that the damage I had from the Primark Freedoms were because they were Primark Freedoms, and they just don't do well in the cold. The fact that I didn't have any damage on the Ouachita tells me that it's not a tub thing, it's not a container thing, it's more of a variety thing, because these were in the same place, same container, everything, and I had no damage, no dead canes, anything. So that's why I say if you're in a real cold area, you might want to, I'm not going to say I'm going to discourage you, but you might want to think twice about the Primark Freedoms, unless you're going to maybe protect them. Or if you get enough snow, maybe it will protect them. I don't know. All I can speak of is my experience, because this is something just kind of new. Blackberries in containers. A lot of people are doing it now that I've done it. I've got a lot of people that have told me about their berries, and they put them in wicking tubs or other containers, and they're doing well with them. I'm just saying, from what I've learned over several years, is I don't winterize the container itself. I might, if we're going to get cold, I might winterize, do something with the berries, the vegetation, to try to minimize any damage, because these are Primark Freedoms. I wouldn't do anything with this one, because I've already seen the fact that at -5 it didn't get hurt at all, but these did. Now these over here in the orange tubs, those are Ponca blackberries. They're not a primacane. From what I understand, these are more cold tolerant than the Primark Freedoms are. So I like primacanes better in that you get 2 crops off a primacane. You get the canes from last year will produce in the spring, big crop, and then the new canes that come up in the spring or in the spring and early summer, those will provide you some berries the rest of the year. Not a huge amount, but enough, several gallons off 10 plants here, 10 tubs. 2 or 3 gallons I got last year, I think. So it does happen. I'm saying I like the primacanes better, the Primark Freedoms better, but you might have to protect the vegetation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And these I don't know, because they weren't here when it got so dang cold. So I can't speak to that, but I think I've read that these are better about cold tolerance. So I hope that answers your question. What do I do? What should you do? What should we do to winterize our containers, especially perennials like blackberries? But I hope that helps, and maybe if you're worried about yours, maybe you shouldn't be, especially if you live in a reasonably temperate climate. That maybe you don't have to do anything, and you thought you did, and instead of going out there and spending a lot of money, and somebody was telling me all the stuff they were buying and told me what it was, and I went and looked, and it was going to be expensive. So instead of going through all the expense, if you found some old trash cardboard, you could wrap them with cardboard, or you know, I don't know. I'm just saying I'm not going to. The only thing I might do is if it's going to get tremendously cold, I will probably come in here and drape something over these just to try to save the canes, not the root system. No damage on the root system that I could see. And if anybody has experienced different than that, put it in the comments below, because everybody needs to know. We all learn from my comments under my videos, and that's how I learn from you, and you learn from other people. All the comments you make are just extremely valuable. So I appreciate you guys, and just to look at the blackberries, and as you can see, they look great. I'm really impressed at the foliage I got, the canes that came up in the spring, and how well they've done. And now they're just sitting there just waiting for next year. And I can't wait too. All right, I think that's it, folks. We're gone.